I'm really thrilled to be at this Imagine If conference. I usually attend it myself, and it's a great, it's a great event. So it's really lovely to be speaking here about my own organisation. And there's another one on Thursday about another partnership that I'm working with, Tees Valley Creative Learning Partnership. That's on Thursday too. But this one's really all about the business that I started, business organisation. And I don't know, just as a really quick introduction, I don't know if anybody really knows or has heard of the Start Studio, but we're based in Middlesbrough and we're a community art studio. We did have a physical space, but right now, like a lot of organisations, we've gone entirely online delivery, and we're hoping that, early next year will become a place-based service again. So we're based in Middlesbrough and in Linthorpe Village. And this is a little bit about our story. So let me see, we have, if I just go on to the next slide. So this is just like a little telling really. I'm just gonna move that over there. It's just a little telling about the Start Studio, how we started and how we got, where we were when we got to lockdown, and then what happened after that, and how we completely transformed our business model really, and how we use the habits of creativity, the habits that we talk to the children about all of the time, about being persistent, being disciplined, imaginative, collaborative, those kinds of habits that make you creative, how we use those to completely relearn and reframe our business. It's been a really tricky time for everybody, hasn't it? Don't know. So I just would like you just to think, to start off with, when you were young, like, was there something that you did as a child that really, really kind of got you into your flow zone, I call it, or your flow states, that you could just do it for hours and it just whiled away the time, you didn't really notice anything else. It just, you're so engaged with it because you like that as a child, aren't you? And I think that there's lots of, well, that's what really with the Start Studio, that's really the place where we're trying to get back to. We're all about engagement. So I just wanted to have a little think about that. My phone never rings. I'm just going to switch that off though. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry, I can't answer. I don't even know. I'm really sorry. My phone never rings. Don't even know who's got my home number. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's really just where I'd like us to just start thinking of, because the story that I'm going to kind of take you through today, it's just a little retelling of the Start Studio, even though I know quite a lot of people are struggling at the moment, and I quite like to inspire you all to make some room for being creative in your own business or in your lives or just with your family, because if we do that just in small ways, it can really help us align ourselves with our truer purpose, and just make your day a little bit more enjoyable. So the nights, we're coming into lockdown and the nights are going to be longer and days are, a bit darker. So we're going to be indoors a lot. We're restricted to who can see. But to me, this is it's in these sort of circumstances when I'm taken out of my usual routines of busyness and, everything being really full on, that's when my creativity really starts, that I find. So it's where you cast everything off and then kind of bring things back in. It's almost like a work of art. Like if you were making a piece of art yourself, you might you'd change it and you'd edit it all the time and you'd kind of think, oh, I like this bit, I'm going to keep that. And you kind of keep the bits you like and get rid of the bits you don't. And that's kind of how creative thoughts start for me, is when I'm in like times of adversity like this, really. So this situation, this whole COVID situation, feels like a little bit of a period of growth for me. Because I've been here many times before in different ways. Life's full of curveballs, isn't it? I'm nearly kind of halfway through mine, and hopefully halfway through mine, and these curveballs that redirect me usually take me to a better place. So I just want you to think about that. So our business kind of ethos is what we put these three words on all of our literature and everything. It's about connection, community, and learning. And also during lockdown, I've been able to engage with some really lovely communities, some networking groups that I wouldn't have had time to engage with otherwise. And I've really developed some lovely engagements with some networking, online network communities. It's the first time that I've been able to show up and find support, because I'm fiercely independent, and I really wanted to be a very independent organisation that was sustainable, so that we could always have it in the community. I didn't want to have any funding until lockdown. I didn't apply for any funding. I've done that now. We got funding from the Arts Council, but it's really opened me up to kind of ask and help. So that's been like a real bonus, I think. So like many people in an organisation, you just get into your own groove, and you start doing a lot of things that they don't serve you well, really, and take up a lot of your time. So we've been able to sort of sit and stop, reevaluate all of that, and get rid of loads of things that have given me extra time. And the biggest thing, because we are not in our studio anymore, is the physical looking after and resourcing of the building and the activities that we did. That's all online now. So I'm not even kidding. I probably spent about an hour of my day every day cleaning paintbrushes, and then I probably spent as long mopping. And I don't have to do any of those things anymore. I absolutely love that part, but those things have also served me well, because I didn't realize that in those pauses, in those breaks where you're setting up and clearing up and you're active, that created a bit of a flow for me to think. So now I dance. I do a bit of a dance instead, because I need that movement, and I've realized that about myself. So it's a difficult time, but there's lots of good, there's lots of things kind of bubbling up and coming to the front for me. So I've just got a lot more time, and so I'll take you to the next slide. So our studio, we love this word. This is what we kind of call our artwork. We use this word, we call it a codywomple. It's an old English word. And it's where you're traveling. You've got purpose, but you're traveling towards something. It's not a known destination. And I'd never heard this word. The children love it, but that's what we were kind of doing when we're creating a piece of art. We're really expressing ourselves. It doesn't have to be any certain way. But when we very first started the studio, there was all this kind of these ups and downs and sideways moves to get to that point where we actually opened. And it took a lot of perseverance. There wasn't really a business model like it. So we kind of think of everything as like a journey. Really, so everything's like a bit of a journey for us. So if I just take you a little way of that journey, I really believe in this statement that every child is an artist. I overcome a lot of challenges in my own education. I had a traditional education. It's probably not suited. I'm probably not suited to that type of education. I've really struggled with it now. I've got lots of strategies to, so that I can access that now, because I went into teaching late. I'd always had a creative career, but I struggled at school, and I didn't succeed at school. So I went to art college and I just found my language, completely found my language, and had many different roles in creative industries, and ended up having my own business and did a lot of design. But I always kind of thought, well, actually, I really want to be able to do what I was doing at school. So I went and retrained to be a primary teacher in my early 30s. And I love teaching. I really love teaching, but I learned about lots of incredible creative approaches at university. I did a foundation year and a 3-year degree. So I was there for 4 years and got a lot of inspiration, you know, I had a lot of time to think about it all. And those creative approaches that I really loved the idea of, I wasn't really allowed to use when I went into teaching in practice. And even though I had an inclusion class in my school, who all of the children had a very individual education plan, I could do it with a group of 8 children, because those children came from across 3 years. And I could be very creative in my sessions. But when they went back into their mainstream classroom in the afternoon, that didn't really happen anymore. And I was very frustrated by that. And at the same time, I was very frustrated, starting to become a little bit frustrated, because I needed to be a bit more creative myself. So I say that I'm a teacher gone pirate, because that's kind of what I did. I kind of found a way to do it my way, and I left and I started up a creative consultancy working with primaries and nurseries, and I just did it my way, literally. Just kind of found my groove and attracted more business. And as a freelance, it was really exploratory for everyone concerned. But I knew when I was doing the right thing, when they would ring, like if they had Ofsted, they would make sure I was in. Whereas when I was in a primary school, they would say, oh, you know, what's Sarah going to be doing? We better check on what she's going to be doing, because she might be doing something a little bit wild, you know. So that's when I kind of knew that I was on the right track. So I moved along, and that was kind of okay for a few years, but I really thought that there should be a place in the community. A lot of the teacher training didn't really give a lot of time. Well, all of it, none of it gives a lot of time to arts in teacher training. It might just be a few days. If you're really lucky on a 3-year degree, you might get 2 or 3 days on the arts if you're really lucky. And this was my language, so I thought that was really difficult. And I really wanted to change that. I wanted to change the way I taught. And I could see that when I went to these schools, that the teachers really loved the way that I taught, and they could see the value for the children, but they weren't allowed to do it. And I constantly came across this problem that I needed to find a creative solution for, and it was funding. Well, we don't have funding and we don't get training. And we hear what you're saying, we love art and we can see it's great for the children and it's on the curriculum, it's a curriculum subject, but you'd hardly know some settings. And so I looked for a creative solution. My creative solution was that to open this community art studio with a brand new business model, and the community could come in and tinker on and faff about and clart on, do whatever they liked and just have a go at things, get a bag of clay out, you know, have a go on a potter's wheel, whatever they liked. And we just wanted to engage them. And when we did that, we found out actually what they needed. But at the same time, we used our surplus funding from our classes to offer funded CPDL for primary teachers, because once we had covered our fixed costs, the only thing it cost us actually was time. So that's what we did. So we opened this beautiful space, and you can see it's chaotic and wonderful. And we had special needs schools would come in with 2 or 3 children in huge wheelchairs in this space. And, you know, we really did make sure that it was equitable for our community. So that was our space. So this was our kind of mantra, that all of the constraints that you have in school, while everyone else is theorising and trying to decide what they need and what they're achieving and what they're learning and all of that we just held space, and they just came and did it themselves. And actually we found that about 50% of our customers at one point, almost half of our customers, because we chatted to them a lot, we found out about, really engaged with our customers and find out how they knew about us and why they came. And almost half of our custom was from primary school teachers. So we decided to do more for them. They told us what they wanted, and it was really easy to respond. So we just created this lovely, lovely space. And once we had that place, we started attracting people from other organisations that had similar values. And we had someone come from the Northern School of Art who connected us with another artist, another teaching, and another academy trust, who were really trying to put arts at the front and centre of their offer for their children, for the community. And we decided that we would start doing some CPDL together. Started to deliver a little bit at the Northern School of Art. And we were planning, you know, putting together this offer, and there was some funding available from the Paul Hamlin Foundation, the Teach Development Fund. We applied for that and we got that. So that enabled us to work with 9 schools over a 2-year project. And it was really developmental because it was all about everybody involved with it, the teachers, the children, the practitioners, artists. It was about everybody's learning. So we did that alongside the studio offer. So this led to our offer at the studio being much more shaped. So you can see how it was set up with everything everywhere. What we found, I thought that was a brilliant idea. I thought it was the best thing because it just suited me, and it, you know, you could just go and pick what you wanted to experiment with and explore, and that fit with all of my ideas. But actually, what I found, within about 6 months, all of our open studio time was being taken up and replaced with classes and courses, because people were so scared of the ambiguity of that setup that they just needed more structure. They needed support. They needed to be scaffolded. And exactly the same way as when we're teaching in school. And this kind of flew in the face of everything that I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be free. I wanted them to do what they liked, but they didn't want to. So we recalibrated, and we gave them a lot more support, and we had a lot more, we built in a lot more connection, and we were, you know, became a little bit more of a trainer, rather more of a facilitator. We became more facilitators, but we started off doing a lot more training. So that's really who we are. And then this happened, didn't it? I remember seeing this image. This is not a great image of it, but I remember seeing this image of like, well, if we just take one of the links out, it'll stop the whole thing. This was like a metaphor for COVID. It was like, got to break this. Can you remember? Did anybody see this? And I thought, oh, that's a really good way of looking at it. But here we are. Like, is it 8 months on now? And we were just about to become more of a place-based service. We decided that we needed to do lots more work in the community, in school zone settings. We were limited to what we could do in our own space. So we were starting to work with museums. We had plans to go into the Dorman Museum and use their education rooms, Captain Cook Museum and the Preston Hall. We were going to start using their education rooms and delivering wider, training more people, and really scaling this year. This was our year for scaling our business. And this happened. I went on holiday for 2 weeks and I came back to lockdown. So I stuck this up on my wall. This is, you might recognise this from Bob and Roberta Smith. But I stuck this on my wall and I thought, well, we'll just get through this with art. So that's up. That's who we are, and we're up to lockdown. And the learning that takes place, our response to it, which I'm going to talk about from now, is really that we have these habits that when we very first started our Paul Hamlin project, we took these 5 habits that we really wanted to develop and help the children develop, recognize in themselves, because then they would know they were being creative and they could apply that to any subject. So we wanted them to know how and why they were being inquisitive, collaborative, persistent, disciplined, and imaginative. This is the Thomas Telus School's pedagogy wheel. All of the children at this secondary school have this in their planner so that they can do exactly the same thing. And we love this. We kicked it off with our project when we talked to head teachers about our Paul Hamlin project, because we thought that if anything would get them on board, they could see the skills that were being developed there when we were doing art. So we used these habits and we completely applied them to our own business. So knowing that about the studio, should we just take a little pause there and just see if anybody's got any questions, because I haven't really stopped, have I?
If you've got any questions, please do put something into the chat box. Sarah, I think one of the most really interesting things that's stood out for me so far is the bit where you mentioned there needing to be scaffolding with creativity, that actually a creative response isn't just about here is everything you could possibly do, off you go. That actually the structure was really crucial. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So yeah, so we had 3 sessions when we first opened the studio. We called them playtime, make time, and clay time, and they were our only structured sessions. And we put them on because we wanted to help parents to do things alongside their children and sort of model that, and so that it gives them more confidence. But they weren't very popular, got to be honest. When you open a business like this, it really is that coddywomple. That is it. I mean, it hasn't really been done before. There are lots more places, and I'm finding places across the country. But I didn't know anywhere where you could go and do art for recreation. And it's just seemed insane to me, because we know that all of the other things that children love to do for recreation are covered in enrichment activities and in the community, like football, swimming, gymnastics, dance, performing arts, and they enhance the curriculum. They support that and bring that on. But when it came to art, where do children go to do art? Reading, they go to the library. You can do these things to support these different areas of the curriculum. I just wanted there to be somewhere where the children could go and see it being done, because how was anybody supposed to value it? And we wanted to raise the perceived value of arts education. But if the teachers and the senior leaders in the schools and the children and the families can't see it being done, why should they value it, So I suppose we wanted them to come along and just engage with something that suited them. And I thought that was a way in, but it actually terrified people. So we stopped.
I totally understand. I can see Elizabeth's mentioned in the chat that, yes, that I either have too many ideas and can't choose one, so don't know where to start, and other times have no ideas. So yeah, it's whether this is children and young people experiencing this, or artists or teachers, families, anybody, I think, yeah, that's the blank sheet scary.
It is the blank sheet scary, and we actually used a blank sheet on our advert when we made that transition. We actually had that, you know, a big roll of paper just to sort of illustrate that. So that's what we did. So there we are, we've got this studio and we're here and we're very established now, and we're there to do classes, courses, training. The community were coming in. And then if I go back to that horrible COVID slide, but actually if I just whiz back to there, that one, can you imagine that now? I mean, it's completely unfeasible. Like for the last 8 months, everybody, you just couldn't share any of that equipment. None of that was regulated. The children would come in and use it, and then they would put it back where they've got it, and everything ended up in the wrong places all the time. So we couldn't operate that way at all. So the first value that we looked at, really, like, we didn't look at these specifically, we just carried on, and now I've applied them later in the way that you would sort of evaluate early years practitioners evaluate. It's like, this is what we did, what learning happened out of it, what habits did we. But if we were inquisitive to start off, we knew that we needed to respond. So we closed, we looked around, we looked at the Let's Create manifesto from the Arts Council England. We closed the doors on our studio. Our classes in the museums, the parks, the community hubs, that all stopped. And we were really upfront with that, about all of that. And we said, you know, we don't see this as a, you know, a sustainable, like, we can't bank on being in there in the summer holidays or anything like that. We've got to go online. And we kept our community really close. We kept our young artists group, because they had, across the different age groups in the studio, they had formed an arts council within themselves. And so we got them on board straight away. I was literally terrified of going on Zoom. I didn't want to do it. I didn't think you could really teach art that way. I didn't think it would work. I thought, you need to be there. You need to handle things. But actually, I see huge benefits now. But we kept this small group going. We had about 20 children who would join us just weekly at first, just to show us what they'd been doing, just to keep that connection. And then we started doing some tutorials. We brought in some local artists who, we had to be really, really disciplined, because in the middle of this, we had this vibrant studio. This is the inside of our studio full of children, and we had to clean that out. We had to clear it out. It had to be done really quickly. It was just a liability, like the cost of it. We didn't have any contingency. We had about 2 months contingency, and we've always operated that way. Funding, I mean, so we just had to move out. And the discipline part of it came in doing that, because it's really difficult when everything's kind of falling apart and your dreams just being smashed to bits. Getting up and doing a job that a really rubbishy job, that's a really horrible job that you don't want to do, is quite tough, you know. So that's what we did. I think it took me about 8 days to clean that out, and it was right in the middle of COVID, and I couldn't even ask anybody to help me. I didn't even ask any of the volunteers, but here we are, we just completely emptied it out. It was awful. So that took a lot of discipline, but it gave me the thinking time, and I listened to loads of TED Talks, and I scrubbed and all of that awful stuff that you just don't want to do. But it gave me a whole lot of thinking time, whole days, long days on my own. So we decided to be collaborative in the first place, and just to get these children working together, talking to each other, connecting, sharing their ideas and showing each other what they'd done. Which was really, at first, it was a lot of rainbows, and we were like, let's go beyond the rainbows, because there's a huge thing, and it was wonderful. But we started bringing in artists from our local community. We've all got friends who are artists, so they would say, well, I'll just do a little tutorial. And we started, and I really leaned on the arts organisations during this time as well, to see what other people were doing. And these were my favourites. NC, the National Society of Educators in Art and Design, were amazing. And they still were planning, they were doing lots of information, sending lots of information out. And they did a talk, and Rachel Payne from NC kind of addressed this, that we'd learned, and now we were going to unlearn everything we knew, and we were going to relearn how to deliver, and we were going to create something brand new. And there was these incredible two organisations that I absolutely love, the Rumpus Rooms in Edinburgh and Art Pedagogy, which is really based down on the south coast. But to have that connection online, just through social media with people that you really do get what you're doing, was invaluable. So that connection really inspired me. This is Rachel Stevens. She's a textile artist locally from Saltburn. And she was one of the artists that did sessions with the children over Zoom. And this is one of her wallpaper designs behind. And we looked at printing, and, it was just lovely, because they got more than me. They got lots of different perspectives. So and we had to be really imaginative about our inventiveness, and we decided that we would go online. So what we had to do was recreate in an affordable way, in a way that we could. Everything had to be costed, everything had to be sourced. This was really difficult to get things now. We couldn't go out. I got a lot of stuff in the range, but I kind of had to go there and decide on the spot, what am I going to put in their boxes, what do I need? And that was challenging, all of the resources, all of the handouts, the printouts for the weekly classes had to go into the box. It wasn't feasible to deliver them weekly. We had to do them in monthly boxes, all that kind of thing. Our resources had to be, affordable to be able to deliver that in an ongoing, sustainable way. So we did these lovely boxes, and we were even asked to do some parties. We started to do some parties online, which is lovely. And I was delivering a lot of these boxes myself. But I'll just show you this little clip, if I can move that up there. I'll just show you the clip. After 3 years, we were just about to scale our business. We had this strategy, we were really excited about it, to become more of a place-based service, delivering from schools and museums after Easter this year. That all just changed in a heartbeat when everywhere closed. So for the last 3 weeks, we've been trialling digital delivery, accompanied by resource packs, which are hand-delivered to the children. We've biked a lot of them out. I've delivered some of them. Some have gone out in the post, but it's just been amazing. It's enabled our children who use our service that they all start off the same. They've all got the same materials. They've got whatever they need, and it levels the playing field. It's been really nice to go out and see some of the children receiving these packs and see how much this service means to them, because it can be a really lonely time for them. We've always been about connection, learning, and creativity. So we can deliver art lessons online still. It's working really well. And they've got the materials, but it's that connection, it's that social glue.
from having that peer support, from working in a small group and getting to know each other and building your confidence in that small group. That's what we wanted to keep. They can take as long as they like. They can take all afternoon doing it. They can kind of leave it and come back to it. But we share it again when it's finished so that they can all see and comment on each other's shared work, finished work. When we did the classes at the studio, I thought they were the best they could be. But this time, the classes feel even more important because what's vital is that we continue to connect with each other.
So yeah, we got all these resources out. This was our bike person, and yeah, it was tricky, to be honest. It was challenging, but once we'd started, we just really liked it. There were huge benefits to teaching online. We started getting lots of children, ASD children, children with autistic spectrum disorder. We had a lot of girls with autistic spectrum disorder. We realised that it was, some of these girls had been out of school since well before COVID, and were trying to access some sort of more learning, structured learning, but they were out of school. So we really thought along the lines of, this is a way that we can really serve our community well, because in Middlesbrough we have one of the highest cohorts of children experiencing deprivation. Poverty pre-COVID was just under 40%. A lot of groups are marginalised, they have a lot of struggle, but creative industries was until COVID one of our fastest growing economies. So we see it as a real matter of equity to be able to develop visual arts, but also visual literacy. So we started to get a lot of children who would struggle in the kind of setting, like if we'd been at the studio, they wouldn't have brought the children. And we were hearing that a lot. So we got our Arts Council funding, and we decided that we were going to bring on some sort of regular collaborators. The first person, Gillian Keats Johnson, who had started writing and illustrating books for preschool children about COVID. And I was so impressed with her resilience and her, just her drive to sort of create something really quickly. And the book went on Amazon. It's a beautiful book. It was done in pen and ink and watercolour. And I thought, she's the lady. I'd worked with her before. She'd covered some of our school's work. And we brought her in to deliver the new classes that were going to be funded by the Arts Council. And we put these small packs together. They covered 6 weeks of activities, and she delivered those online. The thing that I loved about these classes was that Gilly has a small child herself, 2 small children. One of them was preschool. So she made these short films, which then each group had a Facebook group that was closed and private so that they could join as a group and get to know each other. So she would upload them so that the children and the parents together could revisit them as many times as they liked. And children in preschool, they love repetition. So she based it around a story, and she would deliver that every week. And do that with her own child, and then she'd pop the video in so that they could watch it again and again and again. And they were just wonderful, just really lovely lessons, and they went in 6-week block. The other class that we did, we looked to find groups of children who were quite marginalised even further, and one of the groups that we identified was children who were deaf. And we worked quite closely with a school called Sunnyside School, who have an auditory impaired base in their setting. So we were aware that these children wouldn't be able to access Zoom. So we started off doing hand building with clay. We got another teacher that I'd worked with before, who was signing those classes, and she came and we would co-deliver those. I would do the teaching and she would do the signing. And then we did some art classes, and that's something that we really want to continue, because we decided that if we could film those as a resource, then they would be evergreen resources that any school from anywhere around the country could use those again, which is what we did. We did share those quite a lot. The other thing that was going on at the time was, a high need from the public for us to be really inclusive and make sure that we were including children from the BAME community. And in Middlesbrough, we have a really diverse community in every way. And it's something that we've always been really good at, making sure that we cater for. So we had a comic cartoon artist who's a lecturer at Teesside University. He's called Julian Lawrence, and he's worked in comic cartooning his whole life. And he's really talented. He's worked with us quite a lot over the last 3 years, doing workshops and things in the studios. And here he is here. This is Julian, but he's here as well. And he wanted to make a class where the children wrote about themselves, but really drew from the things that they liked, the things that were important to them, where they were from, so that they were sharing a lot of information about their own sort of culture and their heritage. And he really made them think about what made them them, what incidences, what history, what experiences, memories, and all that kind of thing. And he really brought them out to draw, kind of introduce themselves and create these comics about their culture and their community. And they were just amazing. And when we started those classes, something really bizarre happened that we didn't expect at all. We got children from all over the world in those classes. I think because we'd said, telling stories from children around the world, it just attracted something. And we started to get children from Australia, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, but from Florida and Canada, and mainly English-speaking countries, actually, but a very diverse ethnicity in those groups, because that's what we'd appeal to. Our family classes taught by Sue Loughlin. Sue Loughlin is a practicing artist, but she's also an arts educator who's been working with me on schools for the last year, really. She started to do a family class. We really wanted to increase engagement. A lot of parents are very worried about doing art right, and we wanted to completely smash all of those barriers down. And so we did some classes that we really sold as a collaborative. This is not for your child to watch on Zoom. This is for you to do together as a family. And again, it was wonderful because Sue as well was at home with her own children. And it was a way that we were able to enable her to do some work, because she's brilliant at what she does. And she included her own family in those sessions, which was really did enhance the sessions. So Sue and Julie always included their own children in these sessions. And, people say don't work with animals and children for a good reason. It does get chaotic. We get pets brought on. Like, I know the names of everybody's animals at their homes now. So, and they did this lovely kind of work that really helped them get to know each other and express themselves. This was gorgeous. I got a lovely text after this picture saying, I didn't know his favourite fruit was lime, and they would get these lovely interactions, lovely feedback from the parents. And she's still doing those classes. They're all still doing these classes. We went outside. We talked about this, Susie, didn't we? Because we are planning a lot of provisions outside. This was the most beautiful setting. I'm very lucky to know somebody who has just has a walled garden. And I was like, can we do some work in your walled garden? And she said yes. And she even put these lovely tarpaulins up for us, and her husband made these lovely tables, which is just gorgeous. So, and we did an art camp. We just started doing some summer art camps in August, and these were all day. They were 9 till 4. They could drop the children off, and we did lovely outdoor work. This walled garden was huge, enormous. They were completely enclosed in it, so we will definitely be going back there next year. This is Gilly's class. You can see that she's got all these lovely little toddlers, very small children, and there's the resource pack that she started with and made her films with. All of the materials that we used, apart from the young artist boxes, where they got a box and it was a specific genre of art, so it might be printing, or so they did need specific resources. All of the classes that I've talked about had materials that the children could save from their scrapbooks, from their recycling. We got them to do collage with, just like starting to collect the different coloured scrap cards and things like that. We made sure that these were really sustainable materials and didn't cost anything, because we really didn't want that to be a barrier at all. And then at the end of that, we had this lovely website renewed, and this is our gorgeous website. So all of those classes are in there, and this is our lovely team. This is one of our support people that we had in the studio before we closed, who was deaf as well. So, deaf, looking after people who might be marginalised by Zoom, really. Just not everything can go onto Zoom. It doesn't suit everybody, but these are the people that we are working with now on classes that have came off the back of working with the Arts Council funding. We found that after kind of the 3 months that we provided for with them, the parents were happy to carry on paying for this. They were happy. We were very upfront, and we said, this funding is going to end. We aren't in a position to go for the next chunk. It's too big for us at the moment, but we will be putting a charge on these classes, and they have been fully booked again for the last couple of months. So it's really enabled us to grow, even though, we've had so many curveballs, haven't we? And it's been difficult, but we've created this lovely new website, and then there's a lot of information there about our schools offer and Art Studio news. So it's about us, our partnerships with other organisations. So we've got this lovely new website to sort of springboard off now, I suppose. That's our new, it's just given us a new position, really. So it just kind of got us thinking, just the last 10 minutes for questions. But I mean, we've come on phenomenally despite the lockdown. It's given me something to focus on, so I've kept my sanity. And I don't think we would have made those changes so quickly. Even though we'd planned this year to scale, we've still done it, probably on half the money. And I saw this the other day, and I thought, that's kind of us. What if it's been the best year of our life? There's been a lot bad, I know, and I get that, and I know it's hard. But what if this is the best year, because we've adopted, we've overcome stuff, we've faced challenges, it's forced us to grow, and I think we can all learn from that. So I'm trying to remember that and trying not to take that for granted. But I do think that creativity kind of comes from having to change. I'm seeing it everywhere, that on Thursday, when we do our talk with about the schools projects with the Tees Valley Creative Learning Partnership, you'll see that the benefits have been incredible in those settings as well, of just having to change and shedding things off and keeping what we like and getting rid of the old. So yeah, that's what we did. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat box. Sarah, it's just really interesting. I was writing loads of things that I want to talk to you about, but probably won't have enough time. One was about the importance of that connection with children and young people, and that social connection, and doing that online delivery. I think my question around that is kind of, we're all having to do a lot of online delivery or have links to organisations who are doing that. I'd really like to hear a bit more about your insight about, for you, what elements of that online delivery are really successful to create that real meaningful connection. What have you found in the last, through doing that we can learn from?
Yeah, what I've realised is it requires just as much effort as every other kind of delivery. We can put those people, we put them in small groups, we put them in groups of 10. If they go a bigger class, we put them in breakout rooms with an extra support in, because we want to keep them in a group of no more than 10 so that they can build connection with each other. It still has to be very structured. We have to structure in sort of, maybe in an hour session, we'll structure in 3 or 4, in a classroom we call it a plenary, like an evaluation time where they can stop and share ideas, say what they like and notice and wonder about each other's work. We build in and facilitate those times because it doesn't happen on their own. They'll sit back, and we have a lot of children who have sat for a long time with their camera off. We ask them to introduce themselves and say hello to each other when they come in, but actually when they if they want to switch their camera off, that's absolutely fine, because they might not be comfortable in engaging in that group, and we don't want that to be a barrier. So also putting an extra person in a breakout room with like somebody that can support, not necessarily teaching the class, but another adult in the room, just to kind of be an overseer and model things and ask questions and ask if people need help. That, that needs to be done all the time, just as it does in a classroom. But also the groups, when everybody's in a group, each group, like the comic cartoon class, the preschool class, all of the deaf children's class, the pottery classes, they all have a group of their own. And I quickly put prompts in there all the time through the week, and they need engagement. And it's the little bits of engagement, the prompts. And I know it takes time, but in a way it's customer service, engaging and seeing if everybody's all right, and just kind of talking to them and asking them to contribute. So when we start off a group, we'll say, would you all like to introduce yourself? This is me. I've got a ginger dog. I live with my husband. I've got grown-up children. A little bit about me. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And some engage and others don't. Some people happily sit and watch, but we think, oh, they're not really getting involved. And then I'll get a message saying, this class has enabled my child to go and look at an alternative educational setting this week, and she wouldn't have done that without the Zoom. So thank you. And you don't realise how much it is affecting people and how much they are engaging, even when they're quite quiet. So at work, like anything else, a lot of work.
Yeah. One quick question from Bev, who's asked if you've completed the Paul Hamlin Teacher Development Programme, and if you have, and your report is available, is that something that we can have a look at?
Well, we've got another talk about another thing about that. Jan and I are delivering. Jan, my lead artist practitioner. Jan and I are both lead artist practitioners on that project. our school work is completely separate from the studio. I'm a partner of the Tees Valley Creative Learning Partnership as, you know, representative of the studio. But on Thursday, there's another talk I think you can still book onto, maybe because it's a couple of days away. But that has, it's QE monitored, so it is, you know, fully evaluated, and all of the we've got an interim report, but we've got the published report will be out in March next year for that project. But the outcomes for that are phenomenal. They've blown my mind and will have very lasting effects, and will continue. The project is being extended by the schools themselves, so it's been very successful.